Hey, we're back with some new intro songs. Man,
Dude,
we
that
have
thing
the
pops,
cool.
man.
Yeah, we got the cool intro music today. We had to change the colors up as we move into Emblem V2 season. Man, what a wild ass weekend it was.
Dude, I mean, what are you gonna say, dude? It was literally bonkers. Literally bonkers. I mean, I was alive. You guys probably weren't alive when Reagan got shot, so I remember that one. Um, it's always stunning. But obviously the incompetence on the secret police like level is like hard to even fathom for people who've never worked for government, but uh fully understandable for people who do work for government agencies. And the memes were just tremendous. I had the most fun just reading the memes about it. It was what a crazy weekend, man.
So, in comparison, which one do you think was more, um, do we say eye-opening or more devastating? Which one do you think between the Trump assassination or the Reagan assassination?
Um,
Attempts, both of them.
which one was more shocking? Maybe I guess
Yeah.
this is actually kind of more shocking. Back then, it was a little more like hard scrabble. I'd say it would be the way now everybody they're so removed from being like people that it almost felt more real back then. Um, Today with social media, your instant feel is like, oh, is this fake? Is this, it's so hard to decipher it on a one-on-one level, like what's real and what's not, right? Immediately after, I think, there's the picture of Trump with the fist. I was like, damn, that's such a good photo. Is this a psyop? Is this a psyop done by Trump style? It's just everything we've been lied to so much from governments that it's just, you start feeling like everything's a psyop, and it's just crazy. And then I don't know, you saw the tweet as we were getting ready. It was like, it comes out, the roof was too sloped to have security on it and stuff. You just start seeing this stuff and it boggles your mind. Thank God, though, we have a platform like X where we have reasonable free speech, because if this was 4 or 5 years ago, we wouldn't even been able to talk about it in real time. It would have been censored. So that's the big benefit, I think, now, and the difference.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was a psyop at first as
Yeah.
well. The image, the kind of like slight turn, and then I just reserved from posting online because
Yeah.
there's so much emotion at that time, and really started doing research into it. The first thing that really took me away from thinking that it was something that was real was that the way that he like moved his shoulder when he got hit. Because if you ever get like hit in the side of your face, you like make this like flinch.
Yep.
And as you just continually look at it and you start watching all the videos, you're like, oh shit, this is real. Right.
Yeah.
Now, was it a setup? Right? Was this kid psyoped by the CIA or whatever it is? Right. That's all speculation. I don't know if we'll ever know.
Sure.
But there was definitely a real shooter, and this guy definitely got hit in the ear, because I don't know how else you'd fake the blood. I was like, maybe you have like a packet or something. I don't know. But I think the real crazy picture was the picture with the bullet passing by his head.
Yeah, that's like hard to believe, man.
That was like, you
guys,
can't fake that.
I mean, those guys shooting whatever, they just literally have their finger on the button, just 1,000 shots a second. There it was, man. It's yeah, it's amazing, man. It's just bonkers. Obviously, for a lot of people, this is kind of the first rodeo going through anything like this. It is so rare. I mean, you think about it, people put up graphics. I think it's 6 presidents have been shot or assassinated or attempted. It's amazing. It's so few. Like, honestly, that sort of number gives me just the most kind of hope for humanity, is that almost everybody's a good person. Like, there's so few crazy like people like that. It's literally like, it's almost non-existence in the human race. And so, those numbers actually make me super hopeful. But obviously a massive failure, just the most massive failure on the protection side and that is clear. Like, whether or not there was an inside job, my gut says no, but the failure is without question. There is no question. And if heads don't roll in that agency, bro, it's just ridiculous. Ridiculous.
So looking at the market impact, and also have to say, right, there is no room for violence in American politics. Is it because of like the insane rhetoric comparing him to Hitler. Trump also does some things on the other side as well. They're both definitely, in the camp of increasing the heat per se.
Bro, there's no accounting for crazy. Crazy people do crazy shit. And 20-year-old men or 18-year-old men or however old this.
He's 20.
20. Kids are crazy, dude. And stupid as all heck. Most of us, if we're lucky, we skate through, the couple of things we did, which were really stupid. By grace, we get through those and don't, really hurt somebody. But dude, I know people who died, like a lot of people in high school and college doing stupid stuff. Alcohol gets involved, whatever. It's only by grace that some of us escape that stuff, but when you get to this level, there's no accounting for fucking crazy. You got to check that link I put in the chat. When we get into the market impact, I put that.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
So one thing I want to notice, and maybe we could talk about this for a second. I've been posting correlation, not causation. I think some people were kind of confused by it. But what I was noting is that it appears the Bitcoin price is tied to Trump's presidency.
Yeah.
Like there was a 2-minute candle read down when it looked like he was actually assassinated or at least seriously injured. And then once he got up, it literally just continued to shoot up, right? And even going yesterday through the RNC day one, when he appeared on camera, the Bitcoin price shot up again.
Yeah.
And I think this is the new correlation Bitcoin's tied to Trump's presidency. Usually you see Bitcoin tied to like gold or the S&P or oil or, the NASDAQ. But I think now I think it's directly, at least until the election, is directly tied to Trump winning this presidency.
I don't have any doubt. I think that was great. And congrats. I know you had some big wigs liking the post and stuff. And the I don't think there's any doubt. Crypto Twitter is completely tied to the narrative that Trump's going to be beneficial for crypto and Bitcoin, right? And yeah, we're locked in on that, man. And God help us if something were to happen. I mean, it would just be so negative for crypto Twitter that price would go down, And so, yeah, I think that was good on you to point that out for sure.
A few more points to this, and then we'll go to market talks. I know people talking about politics is fun, but it's always quite contentious. Excuse me. So the one thing with Trump, right? The crazy miraculous. I don't know if you believe in God or anything. I grew up Jewish. I don't really believe in God and all this stuff. But the fact that he turned his head 2 milliseconds before it would have went through the back of his head, he could have survived that potentially. I mean, I know the back part of your brain has a lot of motor functions, but it could have really been bad. And I think that would have been drastically bad for everybody in the American society. Stock market would have plunged. You would have just seen, right? You probably see inflation pick up, and I don't think it would have been a good sight.
It would have been terrible. Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt. It was, I do believe in grace. And he was certainly lucky on that day. So, yeah, he looked at the chart, man. That immigration chart, bro, that saved crypto. That immigration chart and that little fucking move, that saved crypto, bro. Can you imagine? Oh my God, our bags would have been. It's funny. I mean, it's ridiculous, and it's ridiculous that we're all thinking about our bags, but that's the way humans work, right? We all have our own self-interest. It's the way it rolls. I can't believe he's going to speak at Bitcoin Nashville. Holy cow. When I heard that, just incredibly bullish. We were talking about it yesterday on the Ordinal show. The odds of getting in there, like just I have a general ticket. I have no illusions that I'm going to get in there unless I go like line up first thing in the morning and sit there all day waiting for him, which I'm not going to do. But yeah, it's going to be so bullish in that room. Holy cow. The video, it's going to be crazy, man. It's going to be fun.
So I've personally had a Secret Service experience at the nightclub. Chris may have as well. I was at Omnia, Chris at XS, the two top nightclubs in Vegas, and we were celebrating one of the Trump's family members. One of the Trumps were celebrating their birthday at Omnia, and I was bussing the table, and the Secret Service around them. You could tell that there was something different. You could obviously see the wires actually hanging through their ears. But the thing that caught me off guard in the beginning, and it wasn't until I watched the full Trump assassination attempt video, if there's anything drastic that happens, there are instantaneous reaction to something, and they get that person the hell out of there. I mean, we're doing a birthday celebration, so people are just being drunk, but there was, I think, five security. I think there was five Secret Service members around this Trump family member, and they were all big dudes. There was no chicks in this one.
Yeah.
This was also probably like 2017, I think.
Yeah.
Or so, but there was no chicks around this one. They were definitely all pretty large dudes.
Those were my favorite memes. Oh, I'm gonna put it in the chat so you can show it. The memes were, meme game was on fire on crypto Twitter, man. I'm gonna find that one for you.
And then I do want to talk about JD Vance for a little bit, but Chris, I want to get your opinion on the overall weekend assassination attempt on Trump. What do you think this means for America and for the crypto industry moving forward to Election Day?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. I am out in Miami at the moment, so hopefully the sound quality is okay. If you can hear me good. But what a crazy weekend, just all in all. Honestly, one of the craziest weekends in American history. And, it's just kind of crazy to see, first of all, how the media is just so intertwined in all of these politics, and, how difficult it is to really get a true story and actual, factual evidence of what happened on the ground. I mean, there was just a complete failure from mainstream media, as Elon continues to point out. And, we should just be super thankful for Twitter and X and Elon specifically for, allowing so much of the, reality to kind of, find its way into the mainstream, because the mainstream media just is completely incompetent, or just more probably compromised and unwilling to actually report what happened on the ground. A bunch of heroes all across the board, whether it's from the Secret Service that did act, the photographers that were able to, risk their lives to take that once in a lifetime shot, and everyone across the board from Trump and, all everyone else involved. It's truly incredible to see what an incredible moment, just, in American history, in both a good way and a bad way. And it just sucks that this is where the country's at. There's just a lot of divisiveness. You either agree with where the country has been going for the last 4 years, or you kind of completely disagree with that. And I think a lot of people are pretty fed up with it. And a lot of the talking points of what would be wrong with the country for the past 4 years really shine through in that exact incident, whether it was from like the DEI hires for the Secret Service, which, fed us with the greatest memes of all time. I mean, or just, the complete incompetence of the Secret Service for allowing a clear shot from a rooftop straight across from the president's podium, or whatever it would be, from the 30 minutes that they had reported on the ground that he was already a suspect or a suspicious person. So there was a lot of failures across the board. A lot of those failures, which seem to be, some of the main talking points of what's actually, going wrong in the country today. And I think that they were kind of really highlighted in this incident, which is unfortunate, but also really, really kind of prescient. The politics are one thing, but, this does impact everyone in this industry, right? And so not only did we have Trump, who is 100% tied to crypto, as he should be. If Trump is not elected for president, then we have not only an extended 4 years of, whatever the opposing party would have in store for crypto, we lose everything. I mean, everything that they've done for the last 4 years has been extremely hostile to the industry. And if we lose the only candidate that's willing to kind of stick up for the industry, then we're in for a longer, darker path than we really need to be. JD Vance, incredible choice for vice president. Went to Yale with Vivek, obviously close ties with Vivek. I think that, we really wanted Vivek for vice president. At least I thought that he was probably the best choice. But, kind of reflecting on JD Vance, I think he is more operational. I think he's better suited for the VP role. I think he's a bit more prepared for just kind of the political office. And I think that, Vivek would probably take his seat in the Senate. of Ohio. So I think we kind of have a pretty strong swing of politics there. And I just think that a lot of these moments, they come and pass, and you kind of have to question or at least reflect on kind of divine intervention. And I'm not someone that's super religious, but you kind of have to just be thankful by the grace of God for Trump, that single moment, that last minute turn of his head actually saved his life. So I think that you have to deeply consider divine intervention at some of these moments in history, and I think that that's definitely one of them. Watching him walk into the RNC convention last night was super powerful. It just makes me proud to be an American in times like this, and kind of show how united our country can be instead of being divisive. All of this complete mess. No one wants to be divided in this country. We all believe in freedom. We all believe in just kind of empowerment and individualism. And I think that those are a lot of parallels that also exist within the crypto ecosystem. And so I think, I really align American values with crypto values. And of course, I'm going to be voting for the pro crypto side of the aisle. And I think that, that was on full display this weekend. So I think it was super powerful. And I think, it's sad, but necessary. And we are where we are. And that's kind of my general thoughts.
Yeah, if you're not voting for the Trump Vance ticket, you're directly voting against your own interests. If you're in the crypto industry, which I mean is okay, because sometimes personal values sometimes can supersede your own interests. But that's the ticket that we support as well. The fist in the air after getting shot 2 minutes after the attempted assassination, I think, is probably one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. I've watched that replay at least 20 times, and listening to him say, let me get my shoes, and then wait, to be thinking of that photo, or at least, Adam, you're on mute. You're on mute, by the way. To be thinking of that photo, or really just speaking to his constituents. It's probably a mix of both, but really wild.
Just crazy that they tackled him so hard he knocked his shoes off. Right? It's that was hilarious. Then you hear the sound of it. Oh, get my shoe. It's just, you can't make that stuff up, man. But I mean, for him, obviously, it turned into be like an incredibly powerful moment for him. Look, these ideas of what memes are and how we work as humans, we don't work on like rational basis. When it comes to stuff like this, it's not necessarily rational, almost never rational. It's, monkey brain or lizard brain thing. And when you get shots like that, right? I mean, there's immediate tie into whatever the old shot you see, that they made statues of, the guys putting up the flag on Iwo Jima or whatever that stuff is, right? It ties back into that stuff. I mean, it's just, it's really powerful. Politicians, bro, if they can create that sort of stuff, that's why they win, right? Because they can create these super powerful memes. And obviously Trump's a master of it, and had the wherewithal in that moment to like pause and yell fight or whatever, dude. He's a genius politician, man. That's it. He's genius.
Insane. So his pick yesterday was JD Vance. I pulled up a video here. I don't know if anyone's watched this yet. I'm not going to play it so the sound doesn't come out, but it's a 2-minute video of him after he's elected. He's speaking to, I think, a VC. From what I've read, I started doing research on him yesterday because I didn't really know much about him. He worked under Peter Thiel in some capacity. He was part of the VC. He's actually the 5th most owner of Bored Ape Kennel Club.
Bro, he's down horrendous. He needs to protect these bags, bro.
You could go find just type in jdvance.eth and you could go look into his wallet. It's very
hilarious.
It's very public. He's like the 5th largest owner of Bored Ape Kennel Club. He's a very big crypto bull. But this post here that I posted this yesterday, open it to the top. It's a 2-minute video on utility tokens. And he goes on to say that he thinks the Gary Gensler administration has it completely backwards, and that we should be regulating utility tokens and allowing them to exist and proliferate because he believes that the majority of future businesses are going to have a utility token or a blockchain association of some capacity, and that it's basically stifling innovation, putting on this kind of like a blanket, this blanket policy over all the utility tokens, and that is just hurting business at the end of the day. So it seems like he's going to be quite direct and have some direct oversight to the crypto industry. And if he could bring utility tokens back, right, there's from the Emblem side, there's so many ideas that we have that we're not allowed to do in the US because of Gary Gensler's administration and attack on crypto. Can't do any staking capacities, can't do any burning, right? There's all kinds of different things you're not allowed to do. You're basically only allowed to be a meme coin, which is probably why meme coins are taking off. So if he can kind of lead that on the frontier, I think it is quite bullish for everybody in the utility space, quite bullish for builders to a degree, because as we know, the rest of the world generally will follow whatever the American policies put in place for the innovation sector. One other thing, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's actually a movie on Netflix that's about JD Vance's life. It's called The Hillbilly Elegy.
Well, no, that's his book.
It's a movie. They have a movie too.
Oh, they made a movie out of it too. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So I looked into it. I actually watched it last night. Also quite powerful. So I was watching some of his videos. From his senator race campaign from 2020. And one of them said on there, it said, or like one of the kind of like bullet points, it said outsider and conservative. And I thought that was quite unique. Maybe this is why Trump selected him as well, because both of them are considered outsiders. The Hillbilly Elegy, I won't ruin the movie. I highly recommend watching it. It's a very powerful movie. It's basically him growing up in basically the boondocks of Ohio, and just growing up in a very, very kind of poor, lower class kind of setting. And yeah, really, really good movie.
I'll have to watch the movie. I did read the book years ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of the book, to be honest. I actually found it kind of boring. It's so unremarkable. I could barely remember it now. So not to say it wasn't a good book. It didn't ring any bells for me when I read it. But that said, it connected with a lot of people talking about this kind of like, what is basically a forgotten class in the US, which is like poor white people, right? Which like the worst thing to be is poor, dude, right? I mean, it's like, that's it. Like if you're poor, you're screwed, period, full stop in America. And I think we all recognize that. And so him kind of putting a face to that, I think is pretty powerful. Now, obviously he's done amazing for himself. I'm not a huge fan of him, just from the stuff I've seen, during COVID and stuff, kind of, because I'm not a huge fan of government, period. And he's definitely like, he's a politician now. So I liked Vivek much more, but Trump, as far as the smart people go, it's like his selection was to try and win kind of middle states, Ohio and stuff like this. And that's why Trump selected him. And it's probably the right call. I have no idea.
So, yeah, this is the image you're talking about. I pulled up.
Oh, no, that's not the one. The one I put it in, the wage gap one. I put it in the chat.
I can't copy it in the chat from my angle.
There were just some crazy good memes around, especially around the Secret Service and that poor woman who was trying to holster her gun and couldn't find her holster and stuff. It was
the college
stuff and the ones about the woman, she's up to Trump's hip basically. There were a lot of good memes around that. But hey, this was just there it is.
This one. Yeah. So one last thing as well. So Vivek Ramaswamy, I guess they went to school together, and Vivek said that he was in law school with JD Vance's wife. They actually have a kid named Vivek as well, because JD Vance's wife is also Indian, and Vivek has said that he's very heavily considering taking JD Vance's senator role if he is elected, because it's basically an appointment until the next election. So if JD Vance wins, then I believe it's 2 years and maybe 4 years, because it would be 2 years, yeah, because he won in 2020. So it'd be 2 more years of whoever that appointment is until the next election. And I believe a lot of people want to see Vivek run for president. I think we just need some younger people there, really. At the end of the day,
Totally.
that's really it. So moving on from the politics, although I do think that the timeline is just going to be completely ravaged by politics moving forward. So this will probably not be the last time that's brought up, because it's going to have a lot of heavy influence. The ETH ETF has a date now, which is July 23rd, next Tuesday. My question is, what type of impact do we think the ETF has on the markets? Will the Ethereum layer 1 gas fees reach over 10 ever again because of the ETH ETF? Or on the other side of this, does this actually keep the ETH mainnet gas fees down, because now most of the ETH is just going to be traded off chain through kind of this order book between BlackRock, the ETF issuers, and Coinbase, who is basically the one that's doing all of the, I think, the settlement of the ETFs. Adam, what's your take on the ETH ETF next week?
I think it's super bullish for ETH long term. Right now, I think institutional money will flow into it. So this helps institutional money get in first. So that's great. They don't have to buy ETH, in Coinbase or stuff like this. They can just, it's easy. It's an easy purchase. I don't think it's going to reach retail for a while. I think it's really important long term that it can reach retail and people can hold it in their 401k. I just don't think retail is even aware of what Ethereum is, has no clue. And that can take like years. People know Bitcoin, and when it's like, oh my God, I can buy the Bitcoin ETF now. There's a reason why Bitcoin ETF was like the most successful ETF ever in its first 6 months, right? I mean, it crushed because people are ready for it. The average Joe on the street still has no idea what Ethereum is. There's no idea why they want to hold ETH. So do I think it's bullish long term? Absolutely. But I don't think we're going to get the kind of significant pump we got. And just because the interest is not going to be there necessarily from retail.
I was listening to Eric, I think his last name is Valchunas. There's the two ETF guys that have been talking about the Bitcoin ETF and Ethereum ETF. It sounds like their expectations are around a fifth of the BTC inflows. I think BTC's had about 13 billion in inflows since it popped. Their expectations are to end the year around 20 billion in inflows. My numbers might be off by plus or minus a few billion. They said that it would be a failure if Ethereum ETF had anything less than 4 billion to 5 billion in inflows from once it launches. My question is, will it increase? Of course, the ETF doesn't have the staking component, which I think is where the real innovation is, because boomers love getting that residual income, that yield, the dividends. I guess maybe you just call it the ETH dividend fund.
I mean, it's a significant disadvantage, right? I mean, it's significant. If you have $5 million to invest in the Ethereum ETF, are you going to put $5 million in the ETF, or are you going to go over to Coinbase, buy $5 million worth, and then stake it? Like, why would you not stake it, right? If you were going to hold it long term. So it's a significant disadvantage. We'll see how it plays out. I think it's bullish long-term Ethereum, though, if only because it's going to be on CNBC. People are going to be like, what's Ethereum? I mean, that is bullish, I think.
So now we consider, some of the first and second order effects from this. With the exposure of Ethereum being added to the stock market, will this increase the amount of developer activity that flows to Ethereum? Does this make Ethereum and the EVM the dominant EVM or the dominant VM of all smart contract platforms moving forward? Essentially, does this put an even higher, advantage for Ethereum over Solana because now the EVM is going to be basically center stage for maybe at least a year before Solana can even get an ETF. What do you think there'll be renewed interest, or maybe even some Web2 developers from maybe some of these large tech companies moving over, although they probably already aware of Ethereum?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think, we all know the network effects are really hard to overcome once you've reached kind of a point. And I find it hard to imagine somebody coming in with a different VM and winning now. It seems like that's almost locked. Just too many people, too many bodies working on it, too much network effect to really overcome. I guess an outlier could come in, you know. It just seems unlikely, but you never know, dude. I mean, I was talking to a guy, actually trying to get him on the show this morning, to talk about, TON and what's going on over there. Like, who knows? It could be an outlier like that, where you just get this like really inexpensive interest of hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of people playing games on a network state blockchain like TON. Maybe something like that comes in and, eats Ethereum's lunch. That's the beauty of this stuff, is that it is free market capitalism where somebody can come in and just grab it away from them. Seems unlikely though, just given the sheer numbers of developers, bodies, and building, but could happen.
I would say so. Right now, in terms of the VMs that exist, you have EVM is definitely clear number one. You have the SVM, which is Solana, is number two, and it seems like number three is these like the new, I guess they're calling them Gen 3 blockchains, which is like Aptos, Monad, Say. They're all written in a language called Move, where Solana is written in Rust, and then Ethereum is written in Solidity, which was a language that was created by Vitalik itself. Rust and Solana. Rust had been around for a long time, and then I think Move has been around for a long time as well. Chris, what's your take on it? And then we'll go to Cody.
First of all, I just kind of want to timestamp where we are in terms of like, something even possibly threatening the Ethereum VM for longevity. Like 365 days ago, Ethereum was like $22. And if you used Solana, you were, it was the poor club and no one would ever use it. And now it's the only thing that could potentially maybe threaten Ethereum's dominance. So just kind of crazy how much can change in a year. I think if you get a different set of politicians in office, I think it'll probably be less than a year before the remainder of a lot of these ETFs launch. So I don't think that Ethereum is going to have kind of a monopoly on that kind of market segment. But at the same time, I think all of these next gen layer ones that recently launched, I think that they just have a really hard path ahead. Essentially, I think a lot of it is due to token price. We're in the midst of this high FEV, low float kind of narrative against the entire industry, and almost nobody's looking to buy those tokens. And if you don't have anyone to buy those tokens, you can't have any kind of wealth effect. You're not going to have any kind of community. And if you don't have any kind of community, you're not going to have any kind of builders. So I think that, it's the path to winning is kind of very narrow. I think Ethereum and Solana are in really, really great spots. I don't think that, I don't think that Ethereum is that part of a sell as, we might think it is. I think the ETF is going to be pretty big for Ethereum. The float dynamics are a lot different than Bitcoin's. There is much less float available on the desks compared to something like Bitcoin that just has its gold narrative due to the staking components, due to how much of Ethereum is tied up in lending desks and kind of their DeFi ecosystem. So there's just a lot less float available on the market. So if you have any kind of order of magnitude change in buyer activity, you can really see dramatic price impact. As far as just how long it might take people to kind of assess or get involved in the Ethereum ecosystem, I really don't think it's that big of a leap to say that it'll almost happen instantaneously. I mean, people saw Bitcoin launch with the ETF. It was the biggest ETF launch in history. Now we're going to have an Ethereum ETF. I don't think that that's too big of a stretch to assume it'll probably be the second biggest launch in ETF history. And, I just see everything that happened previously in crypto as a microcosm kind of for what's going to happen in the future. So many of us got started with Bitcoin. Ethereum came out in 2015. We're like, whoa, what is this? This is like a really interesting concept. And there's a lot more functionality that goes along with it. And it has a ton more programmability. And, I think that same exact thought process is going to play out again within the ETF realm, within the traditional finance realm. And, you hear a lot of kind of older participants and kind of more experienced Wall Street to crypto participants like Novogratz or Dan Tapiero. And, they really talk about it a lot, that it wasn't as much a function of, the traditional Wall Street crowd not getting involved because they didn't understand it. It was because they didn't really trust the new rails or want to download or kind of get involved in any of the new exchanges or anything like that. They really wanted access from their native brokers. And so many of them were willing to trade off early percentage gains just for kind of accessibility and ease of access to buy within their brokerage. So I think that's something that gets discounted often, is that, humans are creatures of habit. And if you trade stocks on a certain particular platform, you just kind of wait or are willing to wait until they kind of enter your sphere. And I think that's one reason why the Bitcoin ETF was so successful, is just because if you're from a different generation, if you're not keen to any of these new technologies or these new interfaces, you don't know where to go. It's very cloudy and murky. A lot of these things were pretty murky. But then you see it, pop up on your Schwab or your TD Ameritrade or your Fidelity, and you're like, oh, all right, that's interesting. I was looking to buy that. And then you kind of scale in. And I think we'll just kind of see the same thing play out. And I think that's pretty powerful.
This is why Binance is so powerful, right? Everyone's a creature of habit. Also, they did have a little bit of regulatory capture because they're outside US jurisdiction. But Binance has been around since 2017. And they were the first I think they were like the fastest to become a unicorn at the time, and fastest to $1 billion in like 60 days. And now they have over 60 million active users, or was it 200 million? It's like 60 million active monthly users, and then 200 million total accounts that have been created. And that number only continues to grow over time. Again, yeah, just tacking on that we are creatures of habit. Cody, what's up?
Hey guys, I love all this talk. I'm just driving, but when you guys were talking at the start there, it really made me think about, you're talking heavy duty tech, which is fantastic, and you guys are great with that. If you take half a step back and think about just straight up history and business, being the absolute first one to do something is never what you want. It's great for whoever's involved, but like you're saying, and like it was just said, a lot of the big boys, they know about it. We kind of, in crypto, we kind of make fun of them, think that they're just sleeping behind the wheel, but they're totally just watching and waiting for it to just be right and to be in their wheelhouse, so they have a bit of control about what's going on. We're so early, it's ridiculous when you think about things like all these ETFs, and everything is going to happen. It's going to slowly bring in the rest of the world. And then things are going to change like we have never even thought of. There's going to be things that we haven't even thought of. Crypto is going to be more, like you said, like you always talk about, the end state of crypto. It's going to just be simple. It's going to be used everywhere. And there's going to be 1 billion players in there doing all kinds of cool things. It's pretty exciting. And I love listening to you guys, but I just want to think about history. Like Michael Saylor always goes back to that, and you gotta love his super sharp research style brain, eh? But thinking back to history and what happens with businesses and what happens with newcomers and stuff, they blaze the trails, and then people kind of sit back and see, oh, there's a little bit different. There's another little way to do this, a little way to do that, and tweak it and make it even better. So fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000% on that. I mean, it's in tech especially, first is almost always wrong, right? And we see that in business all the time. There were iPads before the iPad, right? But Apple did it right. And that's why, when I talk to a lot of people about Bitcoin, I mean, I understand what's going on with Bitcoin, but, and Bitcoin still, may win, but usually first through the door isn't the one that wins. Usually, Bitcoin may be the exception, but yeah, I'm with you, Cody.
Yeah, like you're.
Oh, we lost you.
There's another huge sector right now that's picking up steam, and I don't know if it's in all the crypto people's mind, but I'm a construction guy, so there are tons and tons of different new.
Oh, we got bad internet. You got bad internet, bro.
Yeah, we lost him. Well, I'll just tack on to him until he comes back. All right, Cody, I'm gonna have to mute you, buddy.
Yep.
He's gone.
Yeah, Cody, I'm gonna kick you off stage. Just come back up, and maybe you won't be rugged, so we can continue on the conversation. Yeah, crypto is interesting, right? It seems like for NFTs, right? We learned this through the historical space. The first NFT in an asset class is not the most valuable. Rarely ever becomes the most valuable.
Yep.
Right? CryptoPunks were the V2. You have well, that's if there's multiple ones, right? This was like EtherRocks and CryptoCats and all of these other kind of use cases. It seems like the culture layer tends to come in the second version of whatever something is. And then because how important culture is in crypto, that community then can transcend that asset to supersede the first one. When it comes to blockchains, though, when they're creating an asset, a new type of asset class, it's kind of 50-50, right? You have like Bitcoin was first in as a cryptocurrency, and it leads. You have Ethereum that was the first smart contract platform, still currently leads. Doesn't mean that it can't be flipped. You have Monero is the first private coin that's still number one, right? Even all these years later. So it seems like the Lindy effect maybe affects it a little bit differently. I'm not saying that it can't get flipped, but it does seem like with the assets themselves, whether it's mostly for NFTs, the culture will generally come in and negate that Lindy effect. And then when it comes to blockchains, it seems like the Lindy effect has a much more staying power with the blockchain. You could also say this with Dogecoin as well. I know Bell's coin was first, but it died. It went offline, right? So you have Dogecoin's considered the first meme coin, and it's still the number one meme as well.
Yeah, I would say I think you're right as rain. I would layer on there that like the seconds with NFTs and stuff, which we know a lot about coming from historical NFTs. I would say what they show is the bag bias that creates this culture, which becomes this almost impossible wave to overcome. And the bag bias, we see it in Bitcoin. I mean, bag bias in Ethereum, bag bias, whatever. In crypto, that bag bias is so strongly tied to money that it overwhelms and is almost impossible to come, for another to take it over, right? When you have literally $1 trillion of bag bias leaning into Bitcoin, very difficult for Litecoin to come and kick its ass, right? Basically impossible. So yeah, it's interesting to see how this plays out. And in crypto, it's kind of so tied to, money, that it becomes an impossible wave to overcome. You can't overcome it. Right?
Yeah, and maybe this is also me kind of doing mental gymnastics, but I tend to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana kind of in different capacities, and this is why when you look at Bitcoin, it has meta protocols that are on top of it, right? These protocols are not essentially built into the code, or they're not supposed to exist on top of it in a capacity, right? But people figure out ways. Ethereum was built in a modular way to where these L2s essentially plug into it. And then you have Solana, that's a monolithic blockchain. And it's also written in its own language. And when you look at like the protocols that have been built on Bitcoin, the first did not win. The second didn't win, right? We're like down to like the 5th or 6th
Yeah.
protocol, right?
And they might not win, right? Yeah.
And they may not win, right? You look at Ethereum, the first L2 was Polygon. The biggest L2, I think, by TVL is Arbitrum. And you look at Solana's monolithic, so it just has dApps. It doesn't have any L2s. So it's tough to see that play out on top of it because it doesn't, right? So Solana can then kind of capture more of that value. And it almost seems like it's a little bit of two different kind of use cases where Solana is more app focused, right? I think that's why it's attracted a lot more of like the Zoomers, the younger generation. Ethereum's a little bit more focused on DeFi and institutional capital for now. And then and it's more of like a millennial dominated base. And then you have Bitcoin that's, digital gold. And now you have kind of people trying to build on top of it. But right, it's a little bit of the older generation, right? There are millennials that own it, but all the people jumping into it's like Gen X or boomers or older, right? The stock market's even kind of showing that. So it's almost like it's been generational capture across these 3 different blockchains. And, at least from my understanding, I think we're running out of generations for these blockchains to capture. Right. So I'm just starting to kind of look at them in 3 different ways of different use cases. And it honestly is just a little bit more extrapolated because we work at Emblem. So we're kind of forced to interact with all these chains and interact with all these different types of communities and to just see the difference.
Dude, it's crazy. I mean, now that we're talking about it, I'm loving talking about this because it's like you start realizing your point is perfect on Bitcoin. Like all these kind of what we would consider semi-failed experiments, right? But they're not fully, they haven't gone away, right? Counterparty's still there. I guess Mastercoin didn't really work, whatever. But and you see all these L2s being built. We saw ApeCoin just came out with, or whatever, Bored Ape just said they're launching, their test net for their new chain, right? You're seeing, well, where can we get this new value? Where can we create new value? Like with Bored Ape especially. And they're doing basically Pudgy Penguin's model, which is we're just going to make a new chain because this is the easiest way to capture new value is basically create this brand new token for this chain. It's a smart model. But is it going to work? Like, is this actually going to work, or are these all going to be dead chains in 5 years? When especially, we realize you can spin up, we could all in this space. Everybody could have another chain, their own personal blockchain running by the end of the day today, right? So how does this work? Where does value accrue? It's going to be really interesting over the next 3 to 5 years, see where this actually lays out. Does it really push back to the L1s? Is there, real value to accrue in the L2s? Or do you need to launch your own L1? And we all know how hard that is to try and grab people on that L1. I mean, it's just, who knows how this is going to play out.
Okay, Chris said it perfectly earlier in the conversation about the Gen 3 blockchains, right? This is Monad, Say, Sui, Aptos, etc. They're not capturing that much of a bid, even though, they are quote unquote faster than in Solana, right? Or they're parallelized EVM, or they have this, and this. Vitalik actually had he did a presentation on this at one of the conferences this year. He talked about how the new advanced blockchains all have to have some sort of advanced cryptography built into it to even catch interest at this point in time. And he's saying that it's basically like diminishing returns, not even just from a financial perspective, but from a user perspective. It's like, how much faster do you need a chain to be, especially where there's only, maybe a few million people actively participating in this. Maybe in the future, if you have, 100 million people actively using crypto, you'll need 10,000 TPS or whatever it is. Maybe 100,000. I forget what Solana's capacity is right now. But outside of, right, you have the crypto trilemma, right? The infamous triangle of security, decentralization, and speed. After a while, you kind of run out with pushing the boundaries of this triangle, and you just have to add something new to it to even catch interest. And it seems like the only chains that I'm seeing even catch somewhat of a bid is Aptos, I think, has caught somewhat of a bid. Monad has interest, although it hasn't been promoted. And then I think it was Say had a little bit of interest at the beginning of the year. That's when they introduced parallelized EVM. I still have no idea what that even means, but one day I'll really dive into it. And so it's interesting. It's like, where else can it go, right? There are these other kind of blockchain experiences of DAGs like Hedera and IOTA, and some of these ones that aren't per se blockchains, but they're distributed ledger technology. And then no one gives a fuck about them. Let's be
Nobody
honest.
cares, dude. Honestly, nobody gives a shit about any of this stuff, really. Nobody cares, dude. They just want to make money. They just want to make money, and they don't give a shit. Like, the only reason Say went off was because Beanie started tweeting about it, and it was like, oh, the NFTs went from 10 cents to $50. Holy cow, it's a 50,000% return. And people were interested. Like, that's the only thing that's interesting anybody in crypto right now. Like, dual parallel EVM, blah, blah, blah. Nobody gives a shit. Like, they just want to make money. And so, like, Ton's making waves right now, because people can go on there, create a little thing that taps a dot, and then I earn $20 a day. And like, that's the only thing people care about. And I don't know, companies that are able to capture that or harness that. Look, Bored Ape's been able to grab attention a couple times. Can they capture it again? My gut says no, but maybe they can. And they're gonna throw down with a new chain. I don't know. Is it an L2 or is it an L1 they're doing? Do you know?
It's an L2. I believe it's an L2 on top of Ethereum. Gotcha. I'll have to check so it says here testnet Curtis goes live on the 16th. So in a few days here, I will check if it's written in Solidity, then it's right, then it's its own, then it's an L2. Yep. It'd be really tough if they're going to do L1. You think now there's 3 different NFT companies from the 2021 cycle that are building L2s. You have Azuki with their anime chain. You have Pudgy Penguins with what they're calling consumer crypto. I'm still unsure what that actually means. I think it just means like user-facing products or retail-facing products. So products that are for the non-degen, I suppose.
Yep.
And then you have Ape Chain. To me, and to be just completely unbiased, I think Ape Chain actually makes the most sense out of all 3 of them, because they have such a large ecosystem. They have literally 500,000 tokens, right? It's like they have
crazy
200,000 other side. They got Moonbirds. They have.
Dude, when are they dropping the rest of the other side tokens, man? I can't wait for that drop.
Right? They purchased 10KTF, which had like 50,000. They got both different apes. They've got the dogs. They've got right. There's so many tokens in this ecosystem. For it to scale, you need something that's low TPS. And I guess, for some of these NFT companies creating an L2, the theater, the veil of decentralization is gone. So they don't even need to pretend that it's decentralized anymore, which is probably better for scaling, because as we know, centralized systems will scale much faster than decentralized systems do. I also think most of the participants who came around or who hung around this bear market are very aware that L2s are pretty centralized and are very understanding of the trade-off. I see less and less conversations about, oh, this isn't decentralized, or well, this is right, this is non-custodial, but this censor is custodial and the key is stored here. And this, I think people are just pretty much aware of what they're getting into, and they understand that we have to have these trade-offs if we want to scale the entire industry.
Totally. I mean, Bitcoiners barely care anymore. Like we've moved. I mean, it's like when whatever Pac-Man and there was that heist on Blur 4 or 5 months ago, people didn't even care. The only thing they cared about was that Pac-Man was going to refund their money. Like, that's all they cared about. You know what I mean? It's like, that's where our industry is right now. We are in the kind of, I look at it as the growth stage, right? This is where we onboard all these people who literally don't even care about blockchains, right? They just want to make money. They want to have fun. They want to do stuff. And blockchains actually provide the tech that's actually better. So, core group of us will keep the hope of decentralization and free money. Like, we'll keep that dream alive, but it's a work in progress, man. It's a work in fucking progress.
And at the end of the day, all of this, we still introduce this idea of permissionless, which is still much better than than the majority of the traditional tech systems that operate. And, if you if you study crypto or if you become interested, then you'll really understand the importance of decentralization. But know that not everything has to be decentralized, but just the sheer ability of being able to enter a financial product without having to give them your all your information, your social security number, your dog's first name, right, your grandma's last name, whatever things come in, right? They want to put a social point system on you. Like you don't need any of that bullshit. You could just go borrow on Aave if you want to, right? Or you could go take your Bored Ape to Ape Chain and not have to deal with any of that. I think that is still a massive upgrade than what currently exists.
Totally. It's going to be, I'm really excited to see how Bored Ape performs as far as what hype they're able to drive. I think it's going to be a failure, man. I think they've become a big bloated company. They can't move, can't pivot, can't really make decisions. It's decisions by committee. If I could short it, I think it's going to be a total shit show. But it's going to be fun to watch, man.
Yeah, I mean, they've got competition now. Pudgies has flipped the apes in market cap. You have Azuki is still hanging around. And a lot of the users who are in ETFs have now been dispersed between Solana meme coins, ordinals and runes on Bitcoin, or they're playing the dopamine casino of Blast on the ETH2. And, maybe this causes a resurgence in ETH ETFs or just the ETH, or not ETH NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
And, maybe it sparks a bull run again. It's tough to know. I mean, at the end of the day, right, Azuki is building an anime chain, whatever that means, I guess, just like anime focused apps. I'm not a big anime guy, so I don't really know what type of opportunity exists there. You have Pudgies that are doing consumer crypto. So they're basically building applications that are probably for, I don't know, for like the youth, I suppose, or maybe it's for, it's something that doesn't involve gambling, I guess, would probably be the capacity. And they also
might be like just buying stuff, right? And not expecting your stuffed animal to go up 10x, right? You're just buying it because you want it. It's consumer, right?
Mm-hmm. And then Ape Chain is, I guess they're just building it for the other side, would be my guess. Still tough.
I love that idea. Like, having it. I mean, when they were launching the other side and they, I don't know, charged $200 million in gas fees were spent trying to mint those other side deeds or whatever, and they put out that tweet, that kind of now famous tweet, which is like, I guess we need our own blockchain. Like, okay, it makes sense, but when's that metaverse going to happen? Is that metaverse really happening this cycle? Does anybody believe that the metaverse is happening this cycle? Like, it's a tough narrative. Gaming, though, like if they really lean into it and they got money there and they could really attract a game studio, like with a real game, that could change everything. Like, is there a chance? Is there any chance on earth they could get GTA to integrate Ape Chain into GTA 6 or whatever? Like, they should give them 90% of Yuga and make that happen. And you've got to win. Like, I would go buy ApeCoin right now if that was going to happen, right? But do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree as well. And one final topic for today, we have the infamous Mt. Gox coins are being distributed. Kraken came out today and said that they've received, I think it was like 80,000. Was it 80,000 Bitcoin? It was something crazy. It was like $6 billion in Bitcoin. Whatever that means. Yeah, I think it was like 50 or 60,000 Bitcoin. We had this conversation before. I still don't think the majority of these people are going to sell, although probably even the larger majority of that was acquired by different types of trading firms or different types of people who are playing the long game here. So it doesn't really make sense. Maybe they'll sell some to maybe break even or be a little bit positive. But I mean, if you were buying these tickets, 8 years ago, or 7 years ago when these claim or redemption offers were being offered, I would assume you're playing the long game there. You're not just going to completely liquidate everything. Even Eric Wall, who's one of the co-founders of Taproot Wizards, came out and said that he's received some of his Bitcoin and he has no intention to sell. It was just like, I've been here 10 years. Like, he said, I already made my money. Why would I sell?
I saw a message from because I think Nick Carter put out a tweet about it, and Dennison from Pride Punks said, I just got a message from Kraken, and I'm going to receive my Bitcoin from Mt. Gox. And I was like, bro, do you want to buy a private island right now? And he's like, no, I don't have that much or whatever, but yeah, it's good, man. If you were one of those guys who didn't sell out to, because there were times when you could sell this, your holdings pennies on the dollar kind of thing. But for those who didn't, man, congrats. This is like, you got to feel good that those guys are getting their Bitcoin back. How awesome is that, man?
Forced hold. And then we also, a lot of people haven't even talked about the FTX, the FTX redistribution as well, which I believe is paying in dollars and not Bitcoin. So this means, right, it's either it's gonna have no market impact or a positive impact, right? What do you do with dollars? You either buy crypto or you just let it inflate away in your bank account at this point in time. So I think it's positive, right? You could
I think it's totally positive. I think this is like, I put out a tweet. I think I said, this is the last speed bump before Valhalla, right? It's like, this was the last kind of overhanging negative thing, negative potentiality for Bitcoin to run. Now that it looks like Trump's going to get elected, that's the kind of current consensus. I think Bitcoin is free to rip right here.
Freedom to rip at the end of the day. And another fun conversation. What a wild weekend that really was. Appreciate everyone joining the conversation, joined us on stage. Adam, myself, and Chris work at Emblem Vault, the leading cross-chain digital asset protocol in the industry. We're going to be back tomorrow. We're hosting Petty from Runes Terminal. We're going to be back talking about utility tokens utility runes on Bitcoin. The Runes Launchpad, their terminal ecosystem. They've got a lot going over there. And I saw that Rooney was like in the top 10 in Runes now. So wanted to get some interest there. And then on Thursday, we have two of the co-founders of Rootstock, which was, I guess you could say, even one of the original quote unquote Bitcoin L2 / side chains. Adam, what information do we have on those guys?
I have nothing. No idea. Honestly, I'm going to use this as my educational tool. Like I know very, very little about Rootstock, other than they haven't really been able to get traction, right? And so I'm excited to dive into why they think that was, and why they think. I know they've had I have watched enough to know that they've gotten a lot of traction over the last 6-8 months. I'm sure that's because of ordinals and all the rest of it, but I'd love to dive into it with them and find out what they think's going on.
Last cycle, Sovereign, which was shielded by Pomp, which was the reason I bought it. It was like a DeFi application on Rootstock. I was still, that and Luxor are probably like my two worst crypto trades of all time. That shit literally went down 99%. Full stop. The thing with Rootstock was, dude, it was just a pain in the ass. Like the bridging experience to go from Bitcoin to RBTC, which is like their smart BTC. Literally just a pain in the ass to figure out and to do. It's not even like you thought bridging your ETH from ETH mainnet to the Blast or something is a pain in the ass. Going from native Bitcoin to RBTC on Rootstock was, dude, it was not a fun experience. Like hours. Literally was even like a day at one point to like figure this stuff out. It's like, I'm so over this.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if it's any better now.
Yeah. Well, so we'll find that out. So we got two big Bitcoin focused guests over the next 2 days. Make sure that everyone's following the Emblem account. Enjoy your Tuesday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.